Hello, and welcome to Vlogmas. This year, somebody had the suggestion that I revisit and update my previous videos, which is actually a really good idea because there's so much on this channel that it's actually really hard to come up with new things. So that's what I'm going to do. And instead of just facing the camera being totally boring, again, this year I have sort of a project. This is my project this year. Oh, and another thing is, because people have asked, like last year they were asking about the Advent calendar I was doing. If I can figure out how, I'm going to try and link this. It's I got it off of Amazon, and because of that, that's probably a little better. You can actually see the box. I think that it means that you have to have sort of a what do they call it, affiliate something or other with Amazon, which means that it's possible that I could get, I don't know, something, because I don't do this as a professional anything, so I don't really know anything about how to make money or anything, but I'm pretty sure that you actually have to set up an account with Amazon in order to link anything, but I think it's easier if there's links, so if I can figure it out, I will do that. Oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? Well, I doubt I'm going to be building today. I think I'm just going to be starting. Okay, so yes, as I said, what I'm going to be doing is revisiting my previous videos, and I'm going to start right from the start with the with my first video and the most popular video, which is Avoidant personality disorder and suicidal ideation. And what do I still think about it, and does it need to be updated? When I made that video, the DSM still had the previous definition of avoidant personality disorder. This might be like so annoying. Let me do this really quickly. Get these sorted because they're making a lot of noise and I have no idea what this microphone is actually going to pick up. There is a microphone either. Okay, there. So yes, I made that video so long ago that the DSM had the previous criteria to be diagnosed with avoidant personality disorder, and that included things like if you were underemployed, that's completely been dropped, things like that. And again, this is repeating stuff that's already over the channel, but I was diagnosed under that criteria for avoidant personality disorder, and then I was re-diagnosed under the new guidelines for avoidant personality disorder. And my first video, I think the reason why it was so popular, these are just, I'm sorry, was because nobody had ever talked about it before. I mean, it was a concept I don't think that anybody would have thought of. Trying to see where these, oh, this is stuck together. These are not Legos, but they work like Legos, supposedly. The idea of having suicidal ideation, this is the step that I will be going to make right now. Base. As a coping technique, I'm sure is just the most bizarre thing. You know, how and why could anybody even conceptualize that it would give you peace and comfort to think about dying? And that would, you know, make everything better for you. That's just insane. Huh, you know what? This is crazy. So I think for the first video, I mean, I did the first step, there it is. Step 1. I'm just going to sort of flip through the book and try and see, because it's not intuitive. They've got a, how many steps is this? 230, 244. I mean, it will be cute when it's done. But these bags have like little numbers. That's what I was sorting. They don't go in order. I've got to sort of figure out what's what. And there are no written directions at all. Anyway, so back to it. Do I still think, as a maladaptive coping technique, having a low-key suicidality is an effective coping technique for avoidant personality disorder? 100%, yes I do. Do I think it's common? Not necessarily. Do I think it's necessary? Oh, I think I found the bag. Maybe I can. No, definitely not. Does it have anything intrinsic to do with having avoidant personality disorder? Nope, it does not. But there are all kinds of weird coping techniques. I'm not the only one I've heard of this. I don't think it's common. I think it's pretty rare. Mostly because there's this suicide taboo, which is totally understandable. That people just don't like the idea of thinking about it. It's supposed to be something terrible and scary and horrible, and I don't think it is. I get it. That's weird. But it is a comfort to think, all right, there's an out. There's an out for this stressful situation. When you're under so much stress that there's no out for you. There's no solution for you. I mean, again, I made that video right after I'd been diagnosed. I lived with it for, I mean, I probably truly developed it as an early teenager. But I've been living with it for my entire life. And I didn't know kind of what I was supposed to be doing with my life. All I knew was, especially again in your early adulthood and teens, you're still 100% trying to conform to whatever the social expectations are that people are going to have of anybody. And I did not conform to that at all. And I was mocked by it, by my family. They all thought I was strange and weird. I mean, I was doing some pretty cool things. I was an exchange student when and I've said this, I was an exchange student in USSR, in Russia. That, in my opinion, being in Russia was more like comfortable than being in high school in the United States in the 80s is saying a lot. I just had a terrible time. So for me, trying to get an out when I didn't have access to therapy, had no idea what this was that I was going through. All I knew was basically everybody I talked to was living a different kind of life than I was. And I didn't fit in at all. So it was just a matter of, how am I supposed to get through life in this world? And I definitely developed a habit of thinking, well, maybe in the future there won't be a future for me. And that to me was a comfort. Okay. Let's take this. Oh, here and here. I think that I am definitely going to have to get one of those keys that lift up the pieces. I'm sure that I'm screwing this up in some way. It's probably driving people completely bad. I'm sorry about that. All right. There's clearly another bag that I should be digging into. Anyway, that is sort of my history of where and when and why I believe that the suicidal thoughts started. Gotta be in here. Because how do you cope with that kind of situation under that kind of pressure? And I know everybody has different pressures of conforming to whatever. Froggy. Their family has deemed that they must conform to. So far I haven't screwed this up yet. Anyway. I don't know. It was the solution I came up with. And I'm sure that there's a ton of people in this world who found a safer way of coping with not having any sort of social, I don't know what you call it, like peace, I guess. I mean, the pressure to live up to the expectations of a terribly mocking family. I don't see the next one. I'm just going to maybe come. It just was a terribly difficult situation that I had to deal with, and that's how I chose to deal with it. So that's sort of the origin of how I started thinking in a suicidal manner. It was literally, very literally, a coping skill. And again, if you watch that original video, I would describe it then, I would describe it now as the people who are under financial stress and think, oh, if I just won the lottery. It's exactly the same thing. The suicidal impulses are, I want this to end. And you know what? Actually, that's one thing. Since that video came out, I don't know if I've just done better research and heard more things, but I have definitely heard the description of people who are suicidal, that they just want a change. They want a big change. They want something to change in their life. And that is why and how they become suicidal. And so if that's the case, if that's the theory, is that people who are suicidal want something to change in their life, then it 100% makes sense to me that, yes, you're under a massive amount of social stress to conform and to have social relationships in a sort of acceptable manner. And oh, the other ones are in here. This is just bizarre to me how these bags are. But you can't. You have avoidant personality disorder and you can't. And the reason that you have avoidant personality disorder is because it is self-protection from probably the same people who are pressuring you to live a certain way. Those are the same people who are probably causing you to have avoidant personality disorder, and they're attacking your self-esteem, and they're just making you feel less than in the worst ways. So it's sort of a double-edged sword there. You know, it's sort of like no escape. Oh my goodness, I think I got it. Okay. So there's that. There's that. And that's 2 out of 250. And next, apparently I'm making furniture. I'm sorry if this sounds so distracting and then I'm going kind of all over the place and off the rails here. But then again, have I ever had sort of a normal a video? I'm always doing something else. I always have to be distracted in order to make the video, because then or else I sit there and I go, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Who the heck do I think I am that I'm making these videos and talking about this and acting like I'm an expert in all this other stuff? I mean, I live this life. That's my expertise. I've done research into what might cause these things to happen. That's my expertise. That's it. Okay, well, okay, that's part of the next step, but I need to find one that's an actual little wedge. I suppose I could sort it. I'll sort it. Push everything up here. And then it's in here. This one I don't want to open until I absolutely have to. Look at that. See all this? Yeah, I'm not an expert. I was astounded when that video went sort of viral. The reason it went sort of viral, I mean, it's nothing compared to viral nowadays when it's like 1 million, billion views. But that it went so high is because it was actually linked without my permission or knowledge on the American Psychological Society website, something like that. I'm sure because, again, who talks about this? Nobody talks about this. Nobody talks about suicidality having any positive attributes because, you know, usually it's pretty bad. Unless it's not. And I just strongly feel like there are some positives. I mean, not a lot of them, but there are positives to using it as a maladaptive meaning not the healthiest, not the best. I mean, and again, what I said in that video completely stands, where it's one thing to sort of use it as sort of like a daydreaming fantasy, to think, okay, you know, wouldn't it be nice if this just ended, to really being down and depressed. I mean, if it's a true coping technique, as sort of sick as it feels, you feel better afterward. After you've had this sort of like, feel that I could just end it right now. And you know, if you don't feel better, as crazy as that sounds, after sort of indulging in this super negative thought, then it is not a maladaptive coping technique. That is actually something much more serious, and that is like true depression. As I've said before, you know, the biggest problem that people with avoidant personality disorder have is that their depression is situational. It's based on what's going on in their life. And so you can't just take a pill and make it go away. as wonderful as that would be, it doesn't work. So, what you have to do is you have to change your life or change your outlook. And that's why I think it gets easier the older you get, because you just don't care about this social pressure to get married and have the perfect job and all that stuff. I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't want it. It's just there's a big difference between when you want something and when you're being dictated that this is what you have to do. And especially when what you have to do is like counter to everything in you. You know, and like getting married is not something that can't be done if you have avoidant personality disorder. As a matter of fact, it's sort of famously the most stable marriage of all time for negative reasons. Because people with avoidant personality disorder do not try to get divorced ever. They are like, okay, one and done. So even if it's like a terrible, horrible marriage, they stay with it. They do get married. They get married at any time in their life. But when you're young and you're quote unquote supposed to act a certain way and supposed to do things a certain way, and it's running counter to who you are because of your avoidant personality disorder, you know, that's a problem. So the stress of that is just very, very difficult to deal with. And I'm sure that I am talking to the choir with anybody who has avoidant personality disorder who is watching these videos. I'm like, they're like, yeah, how about you tell me something new now? Well, I mean, the entire point of this Vlogmas, I'm sorry, is I'm sort of not going to be talking about much that's new. But I mean, it was requested, and it is a good idea, so. And it's a way to get through a whole bunch of videos when it's getting more and more difficult to not repeat myself. So here, I've given in, I'm just going to repeat myself. So now that I've gotten so much of these put away in little piles, I can start looking for, again, it's a little wedge without any curvy bits on it that I'm looking for. And if I don't find it, whatever, I'll just remember that I need to go back to that. Yeah, these all have little curvy bits. And this is the last bag. Oh, we've got it right there. That's it right there. Oh my gosh, in this last bag. Which is I'm gonna try and keep, I can't keep these in here. Oh my goodness. So anyway, there it is. Goes like there. Number 3 done, and now 4 through 7 is making furniture or something. Oh, I see. 4 through 7 is making this chair, which then goes here. Okay. So, the upside down. Ooh, it swivels. Ooh. So what do I think of it now? As far as avoidant personality disorder and using suicidal ideation as a maladaptive. Oh, I do have to use these. Oh, here it comes. I'm dumping all these little bits out. Also, can I just tell you how glad I am that the cats are not bugging me right now? They are around here, and eventually they're going to discover these things, and it's going to be a disaster. But they're both sleeping right now. Cool. Again, I think that it is... Was it supposed to be red? It's supposed to be red. And is this supposed to be red? Is this the right one? This is the wrong one. My first mistake. There we go. Again, I do think that it's effective as a maladaptive coping technique, even now. And that is controversial, and does that make me horrible? Probably. And that's fine with me. I do think if you're having suicidal ideation, I think that you should try to find someone to discuss it with. And that they will probably try you on antidepressants, and that's fine. That's a great start. Alrighty. Oh, I see. There's two of these. And the reason why is because, yes, if you have suicidal ideation due to the circumstances in your life, because you have avoidant personality disorder, then if that's all it is, then the antidepressant is basically not going to do it. Oh, I guess there's stickers in here too. Find those. Let's see. But it could be that the reason that you're so depressed is also because you have a secondary depression that actually would be affected by, in a positive way, antidepressant medication. May as well give it a shot. My attitude is try everything. Why not? Try everything. I have to find little stickers. They're not in the book, right? I see no. Not in box. Okay. There's supposed to be little stickers right here. and I don't. This goes on here. Isn't that cute? And I do the whole thing a second time. I do the whole thing a second time. All right, let's do this again. Yeah, if you have suicidal ideation, basically make sure that it really is suicidal ideation and that it's not something much more sinister. Oh no, it goes on the bottom. What do I do now? Like that, that's how you get it. These are not the right ones. This one, oh. This one. Okay. Let's try this again. Yeah, find out if it's truly just an ideation or if it's something worse. But other than that, I don't think there's anything wrong with having suicidal ideation. Okay, so now how does it actually affect my life? If you have followed the channel from anywhere, if you've been watching back videos, if you've been watching the most popular videos, you will know that I have had some ups and downs, let's call it that. For a while there, I was like at a higher level of this suicidal ideation. I mean, it truly was what got me through a very, very rough few years. And that's a secondary, I would have never thought of that. I didn't have it in my original video, but that's a secondary thing. I mean, a lot of coping with being suicidal is about waiting it out, for lack of a better term. And that's what I did. I was having insane pressures because I had a son with autism who was going through puberty, who was really wreaking havoc on my life, wreaking havoc. My mother, who was I think the primary source, because I interacted with her more than my dad. My dad was fairly violent. It's much easier. Bingo, 2 chairs. They turn around. They swivel. And again, they're supposed to have little stickers here. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I think that my mother was the driving force for it, and then she got very sick and needed help and care and couldn't handle that. Really hated losing her independence, and so she was putting a lot of pressure on me to take care of her in a way that she could still be abusive. It's terrible, but it's absolutely true. It's a fact. And so I had to interact with, and then my father got Alzheimer's, and he also needed a lot of lot of help. And it was just the pressure of, basically it wasn't really them. And I made a video about enmeshment, and I think that I actually have quite a bit of that. And so my family, I knew how to handle them, even though it was horribly negative. The thing was, it was doctors and teachers and therapists and all this other stuff that I had to cope with without any personal support on my end. I mean, it was truly driving me insane. And I was really, it had gone to the next level, which was literally the only way I was coping with getting through all that was by thinking, but it's almost over. And I gave myself a deadline. I had a very, very complicated plan, complicated on purpose, because I didn't want it to be easy. I had all these rules about how, I needed this, this, and this, and this to be in place before I was allowed. And again, that actually is part of enmeshment, where you're not allowed to just make autonomous decisions in your life. You have to, your life is lived by committee, that other people in your family have opinions that are even more valid than your own about how you can live your life. Again, that without a doubt leads to avoidant personality disorder, when their opinions are, you need to do these things that are socially acceptable and you are not able to. But yeah, I really, really leaned on it. I gave myself the rules, and I would sit and be like, it's okay, this is really bad, but it's going to only last for a little while, and then I'm going to be able to have the relief of not having to deal with any of this anymore, because, I will have fulfilled my obligations and I don't need to continue anymore. That literally was what got me through it, and it gave me the time to get to a point where I wasn't feeling anywhere near as bad as that anymore. Which is basically, that's another thing with a suicide, you don't know how things are going to. I would have never thought that both my parents would have died and that I wouldn't have to take care of them anymore. I thought, this is my life. I mean, it was like, I thought they would live to 100 and I would have to be interacting with them every single day and taking care of them and being responsible for them and listening to them abuse me. Like, my father got nicer with it, with the Alzheimer's. Unbelievable. He was actually kind of a nice old man at the end. He was not violent. He was not abusive. He was not a tyrant. He was actually nice at the end. That was a surprise. Never thought that would be possible. And that's sort of the point, is that when you're in it, you can't see forward. That's why I would get in therapy, because when it got to the point where I really truly could not see that there was ever anything possible that's going to be changing, then I would really think that there was just one option, and that was it. So I would go into therapy for a therapist to say, hey, look, things are changing. This is changing. Well, this is where you were 6 weeks ago. This is where you are now. There is a change. Pay attention to that. Literally, and I would go into therapy and say, this is what I need you to do. And they would do it. And that would basically be the point of therapy, was to remind me that things change and that where I'm at right now is not where it's going to be forever. And I gave myself time to get to a point where things did get better. And I also gave myself a break about feeling horrified or guilty about having suicidal impulses. And I got through it and everything changed. And now I've rediscovered, because again, like I said, I was an exchange student when I was in high school to get away from the pressures of being in high school. I mean, come on. I rediscovered travel, and now I use that again as a way of saying things are going to change. Things are going to change. Whatever I'm going through right now is not a permanent state. Things are going to change, and for instance, if I have travel plans, it's such a huge difference in my life. If I have something to look forward to, and especially the way I plan trips, I do a little at a time, so that when I'm really starting to feel bogged down and crushed by whatever is causing stress in my life, then I can turn around and like pull out my little travelogue book and go through it and say, okay, when we look at this day, what do you think is going to happen on this day? And start like researching what I can do on any given day. And sometimes I have to do that every single day. My stress level is so high that I need to do that every single day, is to look at it and say, okay, well, on Tuesday, let's look at the endless possibilities of what I might be doing on this day. As of right now, the start of Vlogmas, I can tell you they're not going to go out live every day like they did last year. I mean, that was cool, that was fun. But this year I am traveling. I'm going to Mexico mid-December. And then my trip past that is I am going to Australia in March, which I think I was 8 years old when I got fascinated with Australia. This is like, it's a big one that I can do that. That is. I'm still sorting these out into little bits. Maybe the next video will be a little easier. Why the cats haven't gotten up here and attacked these. I don't think they will. They usually stay away from this particular area. Yeah. So I don't have to depend on suicidal ideation anywhere near like I did. I mean, I depended on it. It was literally what got me through. I don't have to do that anymore. So there's a change. And this is like the longest video. This is the longest start of Vlogmas. I promise they're not all going to be this long. Okay, I can't promise they're not all going to be this long. I'll promise I'll try really hard to not make them be this long. I mean, this is a big idea and a big video, and to have to recap and then also talk about how it's affected me and how it's changed. But do I still have suicidal ideation? Yes. Most days I still have suicidal ideation. Is it debilitating? No. Am I bothered by it? No. Now, when it occurs, I basically use that as like a checkpoint to go, hey, something's going on here. Oops, 2 piles of the same kind. Uh-oh, get them together. It's time to take a look at what's going on in my life, because I am having this ideation again, and what's happening? Can I alter something? I have learned how to alter my life and de-stress and distract myself, but also especially how to make changes that I realize that these small, tiny little changes, sometimes that's all it takes. You know, it's sort of like when you're in some terrible rut in your life, to do a tiny, tiny little change. Sometimes that's all it takes for you to then be able to go forward. And, you know, to see sort of how to make things better for you individually. And I mean, it could be, you know, I mean, classic depression things like, I'll just make sure that all my dishes are washed or something like that, because I'm the type of person who, you know, has to have everything soak in the kitchen. Like right now, there are no dishes to be washed. So I will make sure if there's any dishes that I have soaking, that I wash them. I mean, we're talking like 2 minutes, if that. And that usually does amazing things to me, just because I've done something, I've checked it off the list, I've started. I'm not totally in some sort of, you know, hell pit of not functioning at all, and to just do something. So I have a lot of hobbies, clearly. I'm not necessarily good at them, clearly. I read a lot. I do a lot of crafty things with my fingers and things like that. My fingers. And again, it's just a redirection, so that if I'm starting to wallow, I can get out of it. Rather than have it be as the end all of how I am coping, like it used to be. I still use it all the time, but again, I use it now as a signal that something's going on and it's time to do something. And it's effective and it works. You know, and to do something could be, like I said, to look forward to something that's going to happen next week or whatever, or next year, or is to physically get up and do something, whatever. But it's more like a signal now that I need to alleviate or reduce my stress in some way, and that I am capable of doing that. So those are big changes, but I stand by my original video, and this has gone on forever. Sorry, it's so out of practice, and apparently I want to talk. But that's Vlogmas, and hopefully the next ones won't be quite as long, although this is going to be some work getting this done. I might actually have to break it up and do like anyway, thank you, and happy Vlogmas, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.